Hello and welcome everybody to 1991. In 1991, Payne Stewart won the US Open. Payne Stewart, one of my favorite all-time golfers. Who won the Masters? Ian Woosnam, I think. Was he using a persimmon to win that? I want to say that was the year was that the year he used the Maromon persimmon? You can imagine what it was like in 91, all right? I mean, that's when hollow-bodied steel drivers were still as big as persimmon drivers. Wilson comes out with this lovely blade. There's something fishy about it. Maybe it's too lovely. Let's get this on the review table and have a closer look. Easy to recognize. You can see the Wilson Staff logo right here. Wilson Staff in text next to it. This kind of canoe top line kind of muscle back, which I really like. I mean, there are other vintage blades that have this look. I love it. FG51 here by the top line near the heel. That's easy to identify, right? The sole has changed though. So the original 91, I think for a couple of years, they had this bore-through hosel design with a red plug down here. This doesn't have that. They made this at least through 98. So 91 spanning all the way to 98. They made the FG51 irons, the lovely blades. And this is one of the later models without that. So you can see here it says Tour Blade with a little dot. And then we have the iron number. Is that showing up pretty clearly? I hope. Iron number, Tour Blade. Yeah, so lovely, lovely. You look at the groove pattern right here. It's, kind of the chrome, and it has more of a matte finish right here, which is pretty standard on a lot of irons. No embellishments, nothing, just down to business grooves. Again, kind of that longer blade. I'm looking at this. I'm trying to decide if there's some offset there. There might be like a millimeter of offset, just the tiniest bit. It's not like a gooseneck or anything. So it looks really good. It looks, my sources say this is a forged carbon steel. You can see the dents up here, significant, like bag chatter, like people dropping it in the bag, suggesting it is a pretty soft steel. As we spin around, you can see there's no pinning right here. There is this ferrule, gold, red, gold pattern. We slide up the dynamic gold stepped shaft. You can see right here, dynamic gold true temper shaft right here. I put this on here to remind me of the year. 1991 is when they started making the FG51. And then here's is this the serial number up here on this little sticker? This one has a lambkin wrap style rubber grip. So, I mean, the grip actually feels pretty good. So it feels like it's ready to hit. Let's get this on the driving range and see what we can do with it.
Wilson FG51. The Wilson brand made some of my favorite clubs in the 80s, 70s, 80s, particularly their irons. I think of all the companies that really tried to compete with Ben Hogan, take Ben Hogan's lunch money, it was Wilson. I think they did a good job with a lot of their irons. However, what happened to them? Like, if I said, well, what are the big three brands in the 80s, I think Wilson would be included in that. Or even early 90s, 91. Now, what are the big three companies? Is Wilson even in the top three? They're, Callaway, TaylorMade, Ping, Titleist. Not even in the top, not even in discussion. All right. Well, anyway, looking down at this, it does have a very thin top line. So the grip, nothing, it's fine. The grip is plenty useful, lots of usable life left in it. Shaft a little dirty, nobody cares. The head has a thin top line, but there is some length here from heel to toe. So there is quite a bit of real estate here. This is a 5-iron. So, I mean, it looks unforgiving. It looks like it's in control. Put your hands down on the counter, and it's just gonna hover a rubber mallet over your hands, especially if it's cold. Is this gonna hurt your hands or is it not? You better take a swing and find out. So we're gonna do that right now and see what we can get out of this. Oh dear. Good old blades. Got to love them. All right. So that was the tiniest bit thin. I didn't even take a divot. It carried well over 150. I think it was between 150 and 200, plus it had rollout. So there's going to be data at the end. You can see for yourself. But yeah, it felt fine for being a little bit thin. I don't know if that's the ball strike right there, but that would be a little bit thin. It'd be like a groove down and a little bit toey, a couple millimeters toey. So, I mean, that was lovely. Considering it's a 5-iron and a blade, this is where, you know, after the 5-iron, I get pretty uncomfortable hitting irons, right? I like to move to hybrids. So let's see what comes out of this. Watching ball flight in particular. Yeah, there's a slight draw on that one. Plenty of distance, plenty of height on that. That one felt great. So now let's try the ball strike. I can see right here with the grass. Took a little divot on that one. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So let's try to do a little fadey thought here. Okay. So with a 5-iron, this can turn into a mega slice, a shank, a gentle fade, or I can pull them, because if I close my face too much and I'm going from out to in, it just goes that way. All right, let's see what comes out. Weak grip, out to in thoughts, and let's see what comes out. A gentle fade, lovely. Carried over 150, I mean, barely, but I'll take that. I'm trying to work the ball, I'll take that all day, every day. So lovely, oh my gosh. I don't know why I do this to myself. It's like every time I hit this, you know, a club, I'm like, let's see how that feels out on the range. I go out and hit them. I'm like, these are amazing. It's like golf companies are making quality equipment. I don't know, for the last like 100 years, no idea. All right. Let's see what comes out of this last one here. I'm just gonna take a full bore. Let's just like hit this thing as hard as I can like it's a driver. And I hit it just a tiny bit fat, so it just went a little over 150. Yeah, I can't see the ball strike. Anyway, Wilson Staff FG51. It's not, don't be intimidated by them. I mean, it's a blade, but it feels fine. It looks scary. If you want to hit something to overcome the fear of blades, this definitely is on my list, because it presents that really thin top line. And yet when you hit it, it is rewarding and it gives you feedback. So let me know your thoughts, memories, Wilson Staff, bladed irons, particularly the FG51.
This is one of those blades that is a joy to hit. It's a 5-iron, it's a blade. Yet, it felt very refined, I think is the best way to say that. So rolling back the clock here, okay? So I complain, and I'm still gonna complain about it in future videos. Wilson died in the 90s. They're still around today, I know. But they lost so much market share. I mean, it went from one of the big golf companies in the 80s to now it's just like, is it in the top 10 even? Wilson, in the 90s, was making great clubs. All the way through, they made this blade through the 90s, okay? So, there are things here going on, okay? Number one, in the 80s, there was the cavity back perimeter weighting boom. Okay, it was like, look at the Ping I-2, and everybody on the 90s had jumped on board and marketing like crazy, and TaylorMade in the early 90s came out with their hollow body, was mid-size or whatever, and which, you know, by the way, is still new technology today, hollow bodied bladed irons. And so Wilson is just making a solid blade. And that's where you can tell, okay, you know, the merit of the club isn't going to equate to sales. Great club doesn't mean it's going to sell well, right? Like hotcakes. Big Bertha was coming out with all kinds of, Callaway was coming out, TaylorMade was coming out, all sorts of things, and they had all sorts of bronze coloring, and they captured people's attention and imagination with marketing, and they were selling like hotcakes. Meanwhile, Wilson was making an excellent club. Mizuno comes out in, was it 94 with the MP14? An amazing club. And in my mind, that club, as revered as it is, I'm going to say it, when it comes to performance, it is similar to this. So why is this not appreciated? It doesn't have the cachet of the Mizuno irons. I don't know. It didn't capture the marketing at Wilson, the marketers, and there might be one person to blame, I don't know who it is, didn't capture the imagination of the American public. Maybe, through the 90s, it was difficult to market a blade. Maybe it didn't have the professional backing. I don't know. Maybe it needed to sponsor some big names on the PGA Tour. But for whatever reason, we have a gem here where, somebody says, I want to get into a set of blades and see what it's all about, a modern blade. I don't see how you could lose getting into a set of these. They're not outrageously expensive, and they're not free, but you can find some. So Wilson Staff FG51, this is one of those things where it might not capture the era, right? When I think of the 90s, am I thinking this blade? No, not even in my top 10, right? I named some earlier where I'm just those are what kind of defined the 90s. Ping Zing, right? Defined the 90s of how big can we go? How much of a cavity can we put in a how much perimeter weighting can we get? Not this. However, this is an amazing iron. So where does that leave me? If I'm building a 90 set, I'm putting together blades. Is Ben Hogan on that list? Is Mizuno on that list? And is Wilson on that list? You can see when you mention those other names, how desperate am I to build a set around this iron? TBD. I'm going to make more content discussing it. But right now, it's a question that I have, and I can tell you it's very desirable. I like it, and I wouldn't mind playing a set. And on that note, I'd like to thank my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. It means so much to me. I really appreciate it. If you want to support this channel in a different way, you can visit my Amazon shop. I'll put a link in the description below. I am an Amazon associate. I make proceeds from qualifying purchases. Thank you everybody for watching. Stay tuned to some data collection at the end. I just hit a few shots in the simulator. That'll be on right now. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe. I am the Vintage Golfer.